is in quality condition. But the problem is that I'm not over on YouTube. I mean, I'm not over on Facebook. And so that's a bummer. So I'm not over on Facebook. That's a loss. But at least we are good to go. Oh, I need to make sure my iPhone is up and running so that I can then share it over. Since I'm not able to get into Facebook, I'm going to send the email over saying, hey, it is just YouTube. And I am live and working, and I have some people hanging out with me. Sweet, the audio looks like it's good. Maybe I should talk a little quietly. I'm using a headset. I'm not using my normal mic, and I don't have a camera right now. For those of you who aren't on my email list, who haven't noticed it or haven't seen the other video about my 2025 workshops, oh yeah, now this is a infinite screen. Let's go ahead and go into, oh, this is also an infinite screen. You know what's going to be best? Let's show you my iPhone. Let's hit done here. The reflector is showing the iPhone. My iPhone is right there. And I'm going to be going into the Planit Pro app today, but let's make sure that this has the capability of showing that. All right, there we go. I'm going to switch over to just the iPhone so there's nothing distracting about the background. And hopefully, I don't think there has been any duplicate sound. No, I listened to the sound for a second. It's not duplicated, but I do have a new link that I need to share with my email list and then share on my Facebook page. So I am going to post over on Photog Adventures Facebook page. Now, come on, I don't need to see how healthy the page is right now. I just want to make a post. Live right now over on YouTube only. Here's the link. Unfortunately, the tech fought me, and it was either Facebook or YouTube, and not both. So good test so far. Failure, fail fast, and succeed. That's right. Fortunately, I won't be able to be back to succeed on another attempt right yet, but I am going to be able to right here. Oh, hey, how's it going? So let's go ahead and make this minimize so that I can see my iPhone and see what you are seeing over on my screen. We're going to go into the Planit app, and those of you who are hanging out with me right now, bear with me as I am going to send off this email to my email list with the link of the YouTube video. And so that information is out there and no one is wondering, hey, where's that Facebook link? I don't see it. So now I've got it out there. No Facebook. And then I'll write on here, unfortunately the tech fought me, blah, 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 blah. All right, so now I'm sending this off so people who are on my email list can join in and hang out with me right now. All right, so the chat is here. Let me know if you have any questions, and feel free to interject me. So feel free to interrupt, but I ask that all questions are asked, I'm typing this as I write, are asked in all caps, like that. So, like that. That way I don't miss any of your questions and we can go into it. So, here's the situation. Here's the situation, friends. When you're thinking about panorama season, and you're in the northern hemisphere, unlike the southern hemisphere who still is benefiting from panoramas being visible, you're thinking, well, I guess it's time to pack up my panorama test. There's nothing else I can do for now until next year. This was the statement of one person texting me back and forth or emailing me back and forth who had joined a workshop with me next year. And I was talking about what we're going to be able to do. And he's like, yeah, I really just got this new gear. I wanted to test out panoramas more, but it looks like my season is over. And I'm like, but wait, there's more. I told him, hey, actually, you can do Milky Way panoramas, and let me show you what I was showing him. So I said, hey, so here's the thing. The winter Milky Way has a gorgeous panorama. Gorgeous. Right here's Orion, and look at this sky. It is fantastic. But just like with the summer Milky Way panorama, you have a proper time, a better time to enjoy it. So I was telling him about how, like, you know, my favorite is a certain set of degrees, but the reality is that you can do a panorama from like 20 degrees up until 55. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that if you go over to your Planit, our PhotoPills app, you can see it nice and quickly. What I mean is this. Let's see. Let's zoom out and go to a cool place. Let's go over to Shiprock. Yeah, let's go check out the cool Shiprock formation. Oh, where did that go? I didn't go far enough. There was the Shiprock City, and I needed to go down, and I didn't go down so far. Okay, let's put my tripod here. So when you're looking at a panorama, you can see how, I hope so, if I go like this, can you see my mouse cursor? Oh, you can. You can see my mouse cursor. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Oh, you can't see me hit the control, but you probably are seeing my little cursor going over this. To help that be a little bit more easy to enjoy, I am going to show it to you this way, where I have a nice and big cursor, and it's pink. Oh, pink will not show up during the live stream. But is the cursor bigger? Haha, there it is. Let me know in the chat if you are seeing my giant mouse cursor. I wanted to make sure that this was visible. I'm proud that it looks visible to me, but I don't see it in the preview yet over on my YouTube. So if you're seeing a nice giant mouse cursor, let me know. So here's that Milky Way. This is the shape of that arch, and as you go through the night, the shape of the arch goes and flattens out. Well, what's happening when it's flattening out like this? What's happening is Cheryl says it works. Yes, and hey Cheryl, I'm glad you're hanging with me right now. Good Saturday to ya. So this right here, when it's flattened out, means that just that highest point of the Milky Way and the whole shape of the Milky Way is going vertical. And you can see that represented here in the PhotoPills app. Angelo says yes, and Philip says yes. Oh, Philip, yes. Hey man, I'm going to send you a text. I just got to say thank you to you. But I always interject with stupid stories, and unfortunately you can't like look at me, but I can do this, where I go into the AR mode and go, hey, I got a camera. So basically, this is an Android phone that I use to communicate with my Android friends. Well, what happened was I decided to not be rude to a group of people as I crossed the street, 3 lanes of traffic, and I was crossing the street. Let me show you here. There we go. And I'm crossing that street, and I'm going, okay, the light is changing soon. I got about 2 more seconds. I'm going to jump. Oh, I mean, not jump. I'm going to run. And I kind of hop, 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 run. You know how you like go from walking to jogging, and you're like, ha, ha, boom, boom, boom. And then I cross the street. With that little jog and my gym shorts, I didn't recognize that the other pocket where the Android phone was, it flew out of the pocket, landed on the street, and I continued 100 yards down the road with my iPhone in the other pocket, the one I'm holding right now, this one. I realized I don't have the other phone in my pocket. I go back to the light, and while I'm standing at the light, waiting for it to go red, I watch 4 cars, at least, 4 different vehicles drive over the phone face down on the ground. So that was very disappointing. Oh, I don't want to visual calibrate right now. Sorry, I just wanted to get out of this. Cool, so I don't have so much movement. So yeah, Philip, I couldn't respond to any text you may have sent me, and I want to send you a text, but I had to go this morning to replace my Android phone because it got driven over by a bunch of vehicles, and I had totally smashed it to pieces. So that's the story for me and Philip. The rest of you just had to be along for the ride. So here we are in Shiprock, and I was talking about that Milky Way as it was transitioning through the sky, and it flattens out. I said it flattens out at a certain point. And what is happening when it flattens out? And you know what? This has changed complete times. It changed it to right now. Let's go forward a few months just to make things easier. I'm going to go into December because we know December is a great time for it. And I wanted to make a shape happen. Notice how when the Milky Way is flattening out above us, right, like right here in this moment, up here it's represented and it's showing that it is totally vertical. So it's vertical on the horizon, going straight overhead, and then over the time of the night, it will then flatten out. This is back to August. Why did you change your time again? Have I bumped it in a funny way? Done. All right, we're in December now. So now you can see how this Milky Way shape right here goes from crunched in the center, being totally vertical, to where it starts to flatten out and goes out to the horizon and becomes parallel. So then you think, oh yeah, Aaron's talking about a panorama that looks, you know, something like this right here. This image back here. There's a panorama that's low. Here's a panorama that's high. This is Wayne right here enjoying the great view over at the sunrise point that I love. This right here is a high panorama in the sky, lower panorama in the sky, and very, very low. And the reason why I have these examples is to show you that at this point, when the Milky Way panorama is going across, they have a point that's called the Milky Way max elevation. And the Milky Way max elevation is right here in the dead center. Let me go back over to my iPhone. So you can see over here on my iPhone that there is this galactic center with an azimuth and elevation degree, and a Milky Way max elevation with an azimuth and an elevation degree. And that elevation degree right there is saying 33. Let me see if I can get my zoom to show up fast for those of you chilling with me today and hanging out. So while I try and make this zoom work, because my cursor is massive, so I'm missing it. Come on. I turned off desktop audio. Okay, I didn't mean to do that. But I want to turn on this zoom. There it is. Okay, so now the zoom is on, then I just need to resize it, and so that I can control it. Oh, this is going to be rough, especially with this giant cursor. And oh boy, undo that. I think what's happening is my zoom is locked. Oh, it's not locked. Just stay on that then, please. And pull it bigger. I keep going to pull it bigger and I can't with this large cursor. Bummer. I'll stop trying to do the zoom, but you'll have to trust me if you can't read it. That says 33 degrees up here. And with that 33 degrees up there, you are noticing a number to represent the position of the Milky Way. And when I say my favorite ones versus what's possible is from 20 degrees, right about here, right about there, 2 degrees less, and then up until 55 degrees, that's when a panorama is possible. And oh, this is really jumpy. The 55 is right here. So this is the beginning part of the night. It's about 55, and it's possible, represented by this picture right here, the most extreme one. And I'm going to switch over to my Mac screen. So over here is the most extreme version of this panorama. High, high, high in the sky. The max elevation point is very high, where you're almost having to do 2 rows to get it all in. Depending on your focal length, you might have to do 2 rows. So thinking, okay, Aaron's has a favorite. 55 is possible all the way through to 20. Go back on here. 20, right here. But what is Aaron's favorite? Aaron's favorite is right here to here. These are my degrees that are my favorite. Starting off at 30 degrees and going until 45. Those two differences are, even though from 20, let's see, can I get this to be more faint? I guess because I've organized this in such a way. I really love this sunset. Okay, so this right here was the 20, and this was the 30. You can see how very similar they are. But the 20, the way that the shape of the panorama comes off, it almost feels more parallel with the horizon, and you cut off Orion in the winter Milky Way. When you go into the 30-degree mark, you start to see all of Orion, depending on what mountain is in your way, between maybe Rigel or even maybe the belt. And what is going on with the shape of the panorama, it starts to look really good. And as it continues on to 45, the shape even more, it's like it tucks in. Look at how the terminating ends of the Milky Way band are here towards the S and the N. When I go towards earlier, they kind of flatten out. They're just a little bit further out to the right and left. And so when it's up at 45, they've tucked in and made really more of a pronounced hula hoop shape of the panorama arch, and it's quite fantastic. But then if you go even too far, it's just like the entire thing is flattened out along the base of the horizon. So my favorite period is 30 degrees to 45. Anywhere in between there, I think is just gorgeous, and that's on the summer Milky Way. And as you can see in this winter Milky Way image example, that's absolutely true with the winter Milky Way panorama as well. So when I thought, okay, I need to get over on my phone and look at it and say, hey, is it possible for me, say right now, to get a Milky Way panorama at night. And as I look at the full night schedule, as I'm coasting through this timeline from the blue to the dark blue all the way until the astro twilight period, which is the lighter blue and goes in the night, I'm watching as that panorama moves and realize, oh boy, okay. What happens during the night is a rotation of the Milky Way, kind of like a quarter underneath your finger that you're spinning on the top of a table. You know, it's like rotating, standing up. But then it will start to flop down. And after it does a full like 180 and then flops down, it's visible, but not on the PhotoPills app. Once you get into daytime, these dots go away. So I can't see how that time is working. So then you go into another app like Planit, and you can put on, hitting this part right here, the purple icon of the middle of the 5 purples, this one called Milky Way Compositions. This will show me the Milky Way all day long, throughout the day and into the night. So let's go ahead and change this into like an hour and then go to current time right now. So the Milky Way, you can see how down here at the bottom, you can see where it goes into the nighttime. It goes from twilight periods to black. This is full darkness now. Milky Way is vertical in August, and then it sets. The core itself will actually set on the horizon while this is doing that quarter spin I told you about under your finger, a complete rotation, and then it starts to lay back down. It goes from vertical for several hours, you know, rotation, switch, 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 and then it starts to flatten down. The hula hoop starts diving towards the panorama view of the horizon. Then it dips under the horizon and then brings up the core on the other side, which at this time in August, when that core is rising, it's still daytime. And then it gets darkness once it's already vertical. So it's already vertical, and here it goes through the night movement. It starts getting bright again, and the Milky Way continues its motion as it flops and then shows again. So when you think about Milky Way seasons and you're looking at this picture, there's something I want you to know and to recognize. Hey, I late, Keith Kennedy says. Welcome in, Keith. So right now, before I go into this much further, I want to remind everybody who's hanging out with me that I am doing this sale because I am celebrating the whole schedule. You know what? I should pull up this and then go into workshops. So Aaron King's workshops for 2025, you can see the entire list. Here's a quick view of the entire season. Then I have a winter and spring, summer and fall. Those are all of them coming up, and then here's my specialty workshops that are ending out in 2024. September 2024, October 2024. So if you wanted to jump in any of those prices are nice and discounted, $1,200 and $1,000. But these workshops are all $1,800 and $2,500. But I'm doing an early bird sale, or I did one this week, and I decided to do an encore today. And let me just pop up this link. I'm going to hit copy on that. And then I'm going to paste it into our chat so you can see it if you're curious. Here is the workshops for the Early Bird Encore for an hour and a half next. It's going to be back down to $8.99. So I did this sale for one day, and I had a few people sign up. I got people joining at Winter Pano. I got Bisti. There's only 2 left, and I had an Oregon Coast one go. But I have 4 available left in all these other 4 workshops. And here, so if you wanted to click this top page, you can see the information for the Bisti workshop. But if you were to click on PayPal link here or there, you'd pay $9.50, okay? So make sure you come back to the early bird sale and get this encore price of $8.99. And you only get that by clicking the giant PayPal buttons on this page. So I'm going to remind you guys about this the whole time during the Zoom because I wanted to make sure anyone else who wants to get in on this, since I opened it up for an encore, I want you to have access to it as well. All right, let's go back into my iPhone. So then looking at this, what am I trying to emphasize? I'm trying to emphasize something about the Milky Way and the nature of our Milky Way season, as we like to call it. It is a misnomer, as a Milky Way season is talking about realistically what we all mean is, when is the Milky Way core above the horizon? But that's also a misnomer. It's not just when is the Milky Way core above the horizon, it's also when is the Milky Way core above the horizon and during the nighttime, down here during that awesome nighttime. It's so important that it's night that in photopills it doesn't even show us the shape of the Milky Way during the day because you can't see it. So despite the fact that the Milky Way makes the exact changing shape in August as, say, it does in January, let's just go to January and show you what I'm talking about. Let's change this to January. Done. Watch that Milky Way. Here it's doing the quarter, then it rotates down, flattens out, and then opens up the core on that side. Then it goes up into the sky, goes vertical. This is what it looks like to us in August. Does a quarter rotation, which is like a quarter on a table rotating. For those of you just joining like Keith, I was saying that like if you have a quarter under your finger and you're spinning it on the table, the Milky Way is basically doing that, where it's now gone totally vertical at this point. Your finger's on the top of the Milky Way where I'm pointing, and now it's rotating underneath you, still pretty vertical, as it does a whole flip switch, vertical again, and then starts to lay back down where it goes towards the horizon where we can do a panorama shot, and then it moves itself towards the north, and now we start to see in the southeast a core that shows up. In this particular season, January 29th, 2024, the core did show up before it became daytime, but that doesn't always happen. So the emphasis that I wanted to make was that the interesting thing about the Milky Way band is that it makes the exact same movement through our sky every single day, which is obvious. That makes sense because realistically what's happening, the Milky Way is out there. It's not going anywhere. Technically it is moving through space in the universe, but it's just not moving anywhere in relationship to us in any weird different change. Thankfully we're all still consistent. Our Earth is us sitting in a chair and rotating. Let me go back into photopills and emphasize rotating, because you can see that while I rotate here. So, night AR, here's my screen, and then I'm just going to rotate. Oh, this chair is too big. I'm just going to rotate, and I have a cord connected. This is my buddy's apartment. And look at me rotate all the way through, and then I look at the Milky Way. Oh, there's Milky Way core. Then I'm the Earth. I'm rotating, I'm rotating, I'm rotating, I'm rotating. Oh, there's the Milky Way core again. Well, imagine if I have the specific timing for when I open my eyes and close my eyes. There's Milky Way core. Well, sometimes I close my eyes. I hooked my cord. Maybe I should disconnect this headphone for just a moment. I believe my power will stay on. I'll double check my audio as I'm doing this. Okay, so here it is, nighttime, daytime. Milky Way core is there, but I can't see it because it's daytime. Now it's nighttime. Now it's daytime. Milky Way core is there, but I can't see it. Then later in the season, I wake up a little slower. The Milky Way was there, but then I went to sleep a little bit and saw some of the Milky Way. And then here I am. Okay, but imagine many, many months different, and it's still dark. There's the Milky Way. I can see it because it's dark, and now it's daytime. I can't see that, but then I go to sleep again. Here it's dark, and there's the Milky Way. So if this makes any sense without making you extremely dizzy like it's starting to make me, basically the Earth is constantly rotating to look at the Milky Way core, and sometimes when it looks at the Milky Way core it's daytime, and sometimes when it looks at the Milky Way core it's nighttime. And when it's nighttime we can see it. When it's not nighttime we can't. That's what's happening in simple terms. Let me plug in my headset again while I reestablish my groggy, possibly dizzy mind. Okay, rebalance out, buddy. Don't get dizzy. So there is the shape that the Milky Way core is, or Milky Way band is making every day the exact same constantly. Makes that full rotation, does the quarter flip, and then boom, goes back down. So then I'm thinking, yeah, okay. Does it in August? If I go to right now's time, during the nighttime, that Milky Way is still doing a rotation, vertical again, and then starts to go down. It's like, okay, that's during the day when this comes to that point, and there's also going to be a moon. So that's not a good time. I can't do it on August. Well, when is my next month possible? Here's the tool that you came here to learn. Here's the tool that you wanted to find out about. So as I explained in the very beginning, talking about my preferences plus possibility, meaning it's possible It's possible to capture the Milky Way at 20. It's possible to capture the Milky Way at 55. But those are the very extreme ends of Panorama. The highest point, the lowest point. Highest point, lowest point. My favorite is 30 degrees and 45 degrees. So it's like, okay, taking into that Milky Way max elevation degree marker, is there a way to know about that really quickly? And in Planit, there is. Awesome enough, WenJ takes into consideration those degrees of the Milky Way max elevation. Up here, if you have chosen the third purple in, so there's 5 purple squares right here, and you choose the third one. If you can't see that, you click on this little caret at the top, which is really hard to hit. As you can see, I missed it already. Okay, come on, hit it, please. My fat sausage fingers never hit that well. Okay, so if you were to open up this list of ephemeris features, you will see there's 5 orange, 5 purple, 5 green, 4 blue, 4 yellow. I'm talking about the third one in, Milky Way Seeker. When you're in on that, when you have Milky Way Seeker up, you get this question right here. It's not obviously a question, it's a defined setting. And right now it's currently on Milky Way compositions. And which one? Possible Milky Way compositions from Milky Way core rising, Milky Way core setting, the Milky Way arch at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and then a vertical Milky Way. Then it goes backwards down to 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30. So I want my favorite degree marker to be 30 degrees. Tilted winter Milky Way at 30 degrees. The arch at 30 degrees. This is the arch at 30 degrees. It shows it at 30 degrees right now, but it's during the day, and there's a moon up. The reason why I mentioned that moon so much is because what if it was during the night, but it also had a moon? That's going to wash out my Milky Way, especially the winter Milky Way. So I also want to make sure there's no moon. So then I have to go into my results right here. You click on those. Well, first, if you haven't done this, change your dates from the current date, recently enough, to a year from now, or you can make that 5 years from now. I am just going to go for 1 year. So August 21st through August 20th of next year. I have 139 results when the Milky Way, winter Milky Way, is at 30 degrees. That includes times during the day, and then includes times during the night. Well, if I go into results, and I say, I want there to be no moon. Beyond that, there isn't a time of night. It just is then. I mean, I only want to go out on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I can do that if I wanted to. So for instance, when I said no moon, a lot of times these are AM times. And middle of the year, it actually doesn't even show. Oh, there we go, 11:49 p.m. But that p.m. is still night. So just by virtue of saying I want there to be no moon, it already thinks only about the night. I don't know exactly why that is, but well done, WenJ, that it does consider just during the nighttime hours. When I did the first results and it showed me that one, that was middle of the day. But this one is no moon, and it's showing it. So by having my result being tapped and then choosing no moon as a filter, I've been given a list of options. I'm going to hit number 1. So now it's showing me number 1, the very first one coming up from August 21st, 2024. And that date is, of one of 68 results, that date is December 8th, 2024, Sunday morning at 5:50 a.m. At that point, it's exactly at 30, which I feel like is the last part of my panorama time, the last moment. But as I'm pulling back through the night, it goes a little higher, and it can go up to 45. And I like 45 too. That's the range from 45 to 30. It's my favorite range. And that time starts at 4:28 a.m. So I'm thinking, ooh, well, 45 is really what I want because there's plenty of room on the 45 to see Orion. So when's a good 45? I go back into my Milky Way compositions, And sadly, unfortunately, there is only on the 10s. I can't get 45. So what I do is I go winter Milky Way arch at 40. That's a compromise. Let's do that. And it says up in the results, I'm going to go back to the very first one, and the very first one is here, top of the list. I hit that, and result 1 of 68 says 534 on November 29th. So it went all the way into December 8th when I was asking for 30 degrees, but as early as November 29th, that Friday morning, I can see a 40-degree mark. Well, if I just go back a little bit of time, I can go into a 45-degree mark and see the exact minute for that one. And that 45 is right there. So, I know my first opportunity from now until next year to go out and see a winter Milky Way panorama at this nighttime with no moon is going to be November 29th, 2024. And on top of all this brilliance of just being able to quickly see this, I have the other brilliance that makes up Planit, which is this tool right here, where I click on that and say, I want to see viewfinder VR. But before I do that, I want to click right here and say, show me the panorama view of it, and then show me VR. So now I'm going to see quite literally what it looks like from the position I had myself at during the night. And I want to see the Orion constellation. So I'm going to go up here into my settings of the viewfinder and say, show me constellation lines and names. Done. All right. So now I look at this and say, ooh, 45 degrees. This is great. But, you know, when I'm watching Orion move across the sky, maybe it's even cooler when it's closer to the horizon and closer to Factory Butte. Okay, well, Factory Butte's right there, and Orion's nice and big, and the panel's going over it. But what if I had a little bit more relationship between Orion and Factory Butte? I should probably move so that I push Factory Butte under Orion more. Okay, well, let's see, how can I do that? Here's another cool feature. Down here, there's this arrow pointing at each other. If I hit that, it'll move this window small, and then allow me to activate my screen here, my position. Oh, I ended up changing my viewing angle. I just wanted to move my window. Okay, so there's Factory Butte, the subject I'm looking at that has the red pin, and the blue pin is where I'm standing. If I put my finger on the blue pin, I can start moving myself. If I go south, what happens? Actually, Orion got further away from Factory Butte. You can see Factory Butte moving to the right. So I need to go more north on this road, and Factory Butte just keeps getting closer and closer and closer and closer until right there the peak of Factory Butte is between the legs and the bow and arrow, right there at Orion. I kind of like that. That's cool. Let's go big on this and see what it looks like. Ooh, cool. So Orion's entire shape is on top of Factory Butte. If I wanted to put Factory Butte off to the right of Orion and Orion's off to the left of it, maybe taking up negative space instead of all these positive elements on top of each other, let me change my position again. It's like, okay, I want Factory Butte to be more featured, so I'm going to go closer to Factory Butte. And I should go north of it. No, I'm overlapping it, so I should go south of it a little bit more, west, eastern. Ooh, right there. And now by looking at this video, like the representation screen of what it looks like, I can decide if I want to go even closer to Factory Butte. Ooh, that'd be even better. And the other terrain, as far as the Google API is connected here, as far as it can tell, no other terrain that's topographically marked is going to be in my way. I might find that there's a little bit of like a rock outcropping. Let's go big. There might be a little more of a rock outcropping here as it's been kind of evened out with topography of what they have for their resolution. There might be something that bugs me there and I move right or left, but I have a massively awesome starting point of how I can get a panorama right over Factory Butte with Orion's full constellation silhouette looking great right off the left of my subject of the foreground, right there in that negative space, and then the panorama is looking good. The only problem is I changed the time and I'm starting to get into the early morning, so it's like, let's go back into the darkness. Okay, the full dark on November 29th plus Orion. it looks like I need to go somewhere around here. When does the astral twilight begin? This arrow right here will go to the next main event. And the next main event happens to be Dark Night End, and that's 5:46 a.m. So I want to go back, and it says, hey, the winter Milky Way arch is at 40 degrees. That's the next event prior to that. Okay, that's 5:34. That's 10 minutes before, 12 minutes before it gets fully light. Might be cutting it a little close on November 29th when it gets so close to morning, but I love the position of Orion and Jupiter. I'm sorry, not Orion and Jupiter, but for Orion and Factory Butte. I saw Jupiter and just wanted to say it. So Orion and Factory Butte. So I'm thinking, I'm going to try 40 degrees so that I have some more time for it to move. I do think I should move my position now a little bit since I have it that high. So I'm going to go just north a little bit more, maybe too much there. Okay, I'm settling on that one. That got my relationship with Factory Butte and the middle of this arch plus Orion looking pretty fantastic. But now I'm thinking, oof, November 29th might be cutting it too close. My 40-degree point is like so close to the sunrise that I'm really asking for any like failure on my part doing my focus or doing my panorama. I'm going to have to do it again, and I might run into the morning. So let's give myself some more time. When's the next night going to be like? Do I have to change too much? Well, one thing you may have not done on Planit before is clicking down on this side or on that side, just tapping once will change what this is. Right now it's set for on the hour. I tap on the right side, it goes to by the minute, it'll go by the minute. Tap it again, it'll go by the year. If I tap it again, it'll go by the month. I'm going to tap it again and go to the day. So now that I'm going to the day, I can actually swipe this over to the 30th, and it gives me winter Milky Way arch at 40 degrees on the 30th, which a moment ago on the 29th, that moment was 5:34 a.m. On the 30th, it's 5:30 a.m. On the 1st, it's 5:27 a.m. And on the 2nd, it's 5:23 a.m. Notice how my view of Orion plus Factory Butte is not changing. This is showing me exactly the position of where the Milky Way arch and these stars are going to be right next to this terrain, this foreground landscape that I've chosen, at that time that it looks like this on the 2nd of December, on the 3rd of December, the 4th. No matter how far forward I go, this doesn't change its position. But if I were to go on December 18th, it'd be 4:20 in the morning. If I go all the way into January 17th, that time would be 2:22 a.m. If I go into February 16th, that would be 12:24 a.m. That exact position, that exact spot is 12:24 a.m. So I can already see between December and February, I have a lot of opportunity to give myself hours of time after that before sunrise. Now, in reality, you still have the same amount of time before that Milky Way and Orion starts moving and setting. And so it's not like I have hours with Orion just sitting right there in its position. I really only have minutes. But if I end up having a mistake and I need to capture again, it's not light. There's not light yet. So all I have to do is just move my position and go more to the south to pull Orion's, bow and arrow off of Factory Butte, give myself some space. But I really only have until Orion starts to set. When Orion starts to set on the horizon, that's when things start to fall. So right now I'm having myself jump around by the days, and so this isn't moving at all. But if I tap the right again and I go back to hours, it will move because it'll represent the night sky in the next hour. And you can see how this will collapse on Factory Butte, Orion will set, and the Milky Way panorama will go shallow and get kind of parallel, and then it's too far. And let's see, what is this? Milky Way rise and Milky Way arch at 20 degrees. So this was the 20-degree Milky Way arch, looking at Factory Butte and seeing how at 20 degrees is just too short for Factory Butte as a subject. It's starting to block my Milky Way arch. So, those of you who are hanging out with me right now, does that make sense? Do you think you could recreate that in Planit? I had to know what degrees I wanted the Milky Way max elevation to be. I had to know that there was going to be a position, like some sort of subject like Factory Butte, that I wanted to build this all around. And I knew I wanted to go any time in the next year. I had that information, and I told it, let me come back out of the VR mode. I told it up here in Milky Way compositions to be a Milky Way at 40 degrees. And then I went to the results and I tap on them so that I can filter them, because typically you won't have any filters selected. I wanted no moon. That filtered the results, and then I scrolled to the top of that list and tapped on that first row. Now it takes me to the first opportunity to see a 40-degree Milky Way max elevation. It's 39.8 technically, but it's 29th of November, 2024, and that's just before sunrise. If I tap on this little arrow here, it goes over to the next event, which is Milky Way arch at 40. Next event after that is dark night ends at 5:46. So at 40 degrees is 5:34. Night ends at 5:46. So 13 minutes later, the night is going to end. So, any questions for those of you 10 hanging out with me right now? Any questions that I can answer about what I just taught, or anything else that you're curious about? For instance, you're like, hey, I got this place I want to go, and it's going to be in this location, and I want to make sure I have this for a moon, this for a Milky Way. Does this work for one? Show me how you would look it up on Planit. And while you do that, I'm just going to go back and forth and show the differences in photo pills. Well, I love photo pills. Like, for instance, I know that the Milky Way, when it's almost vertical in the sky, the Milky Way band will be right here coming off of this rock and then going over my head and then going that way. But within photo pills, I don't have a virtual reality view of the topography of Ship Rock. If, say, I wanted to go, let me save this as a task of the plan for Factory Butte. Milky Way shape, Factory Butte. Rename. So now that task of the Milky Way shape plan is Factory Butte. But now I can move this and go down to New Mexico and go into Shiprock area. There's Shiprock. You can see the topography nice and clean on this. And I'm going to put myself right here. Say camera location, move that white circle on top of Shiprock and say scene location. And then I'm still November 29th. I'm still 5:46 a.m. for a 40 degree. Let's see. Let me go back enough. Dark night ends at 5:36 and a 40 degrees at 5:26. So here's a new location with a new latitude line and longitude line too. So it's like, okay, let me find out my results for this Milky Way composition. I'm going to hit the Milky Way composition. I'm going to make sure it knows it's for Milky Way arch at 40. My results are down to 69 total. It recognizes the no moon request. I'm going to go to the very top one. So result 1 of 69. And that is 5:26 a.m. on November 29th. And that's pretty much where I just got into, but you can see how they can be different times before sunrise. 26 to 36. Looks like that timing from 40 degrees to sunrise in New Mexico at that latitude, it's actually 10 minutes only, where up at Factory Butte I had 12, 13 minutes. Victor says, hey, Aaron and all. Hey, Vic. Angelo says, no internet on my PC. Everything is way too small on this phone. Take care. Oh, that's hard to watch. Sorry, man. I did not set this up to look good on an iPhone streaming. So take it easy, Angelo. Sally Berry says, I wish I had caught this earlier, so I will definitely watch the replay. Well, do you have any questions, Sally? I mean, I don't mind just replaying it, because there'll be someone else who jumps in like you and says, oh, what's this? You know, they see that it's live on YouTube and they jump in and they've seen maybe a video of mine before. So, Sally, where could I start that would help you understand what I'm talking about? And I'm more than happy just to go into a 10-minute version of what I went through where I just talk about all of it. Cheryl says, hey, this will be up later so we can rewatch, right? Oh, yeah, this will be permanently up on my YouTube channel. So when you go over to YouTube, let me share my main screen again. And those of you uninitiated, I had an early bird sale this week. It lasted for 1 day. I'm doing an encore right now, and there's 58 minutes left. So if you want to come out with me on a 4-night workshop next year, you have these 9 to choose from, and all of these, instead of $1,800, are $899. And that link is in the chat. Let me just paste that again. So if you go to my YouTube channel, Cheryl, just go to Aaron King Photog Adventures, you'll see this stuff. And right now it shows that I'm currently live talking about the Winter Milky Way pano. But then if you were to go over here on lives, you can see all of the live streams that I've had in the past. Any ones that are not unlisted. I have many that I have now unlisted, just because they're really long and they were older Milky Way Wednesdays, and it's kind of fun to redo some of those lessons, and so I just don't have multiples of the same lesson. So I unlist them, except for some that are just really standout fun, like my crazy one. Let's see, I can't find it by name. But anyway, here's where you can find all my lives. If you go just to the home page, it'll show everything in like recent videos, popular videos, 2-minute tip videos, past live streams that are the most recent past live streams. So you'll see it here too. But if you quickly want to find it, just go over to the live tab right there. And there you go. You find it. So Brad Speece. It is Speece, right, Brad? I've been wanting to say Speece all this time. I got an all caps question from Phil. Can you show how to get to the VR? Absolutely. So let's go back over to my iPhone again. And looking at the phone you're seeing that I'm on, the Planit app. And on the Planet's app, it has a VR feature. But on the PhotoPills app, you don't have that. At least not currently. I wouldn't be surprised if Hoffa and Hernan are going to not add it. I know that they want to. I can watch on a YouTube channel. Sweet, Sally. Fair enough. Sounds like a good plan. So right here, you can see that, oh, you know what? I'm just curious, because this has been a challenge recently where the YouTube, refresh this page. This is a distraction. I'm sorry, Phil. Basically, I go into the YouTube page and I can have my audio, or not the audio, don't go loud. I wanted to see the chat up on my screen, and for some reason recently I can no longer resize or refresh the look of my video chat, so it just looks like YouTube's white background and all of that. But let's see if we can get it to work here. All right, correct pronunciation, he says. Yes, that makes me feel good. It's important to me. Oh yeah, there you are, but unfortunately your guys' chats are like that. Oh wow, this is so bizarre. When I have the giant hand, getting into the controls and actually being able to make adjustments to this is terrible. This is what you're not seeing on this side. So, come on, let me resize this. I'm not gonna let you. You're not gonna let you. Okay, fine. If I do that, you all can see what has been said that I'm commenting on, but hopefully that's not too, white and distracting. The CSS of it all changed, so hopefully that's not too distracting. Please let me know if it is, and I will just take it off. So, correct pronunciation, yes. Gotta run, Cheryl says. Super helpful. See you in Oregon, October. Yes, I'm excited too, Cheryl. 5 nights in October. Boom, boom, boom. And there's 5 more spots, I think, in that workshop. It's only $1,000. So it's a 5-night workshop for only $1,000. We're going through Oregon, and it's landscape and Milky Way. That one is available right now. Let me just nurture my workshop list a little bit and say, hey, if you didn't know that, here's what she's talking about. The Oregon Coast Astro Adventure, there's 4 left, not 5. So if you go into this, you can see on this page how it's only $1,000. It's a landscape and Milky Way. We're going to be in these places, doing this stuff during the day, doing stuff during the night, and then the schedule will not change according to weather. We're just going to take it what happens. If Brookings rains like crazy, we'll do some macro and some fern photography and deepen the canopy as long as it's not soaking us to death. And we'll just enjoy what we can. And then we got mushroom photography and giant redwoods when we just blitz down to California for a second, then come back up. This is going to be a fun adventure in October, and it's just gorgeous out there on the Oregon coast. And October and November tend to be brilliant weather. And so if you want to enjoy some kind of nice weather and enjoy the beautiful Oregon coast, we have 5 straight nights that we're hanging out here and doing Milky Way when it's possible, like this vertical Milky Way that you're seeing right there in yeah, that's in Cannon Beach. Okay, back to my phone, back to the lesson. Swap it over. So Phil asks, how do I get the VR? And the VR on my phone, I was showing how photo pills, there just isn't an option for it. You can see where your location is. You can see the Milky Way concentric rings to kind of represent the sky. It is going to be epic, Cheryl. I agree. And you can see how it represents the Milky Way bar, band, arch in the sky as it goes through the night. And I was talking about this rotation as being kind of like a quarter under your finger on a table, and you rotate it. And it's rotating completely, and then it does a full rotation to go vertical again, and it disappears. In photo pills, it just doesn't show you the dots during the day, which is nice because it's out of the way. You don't need it. But sometimes it's nice to have. And if you were, say, on a landscape orange, you wouldn't see, oh, I think I have my settings to show the Milky Way all the time. But you'll need to change that if you're not. It's just in your settings. You go up in here and you go to down here, settings, and then on the, is it on the map or is it on the general? I think it's just on the map. So, here we go. Ephemeris overlay on map. I have my Milky Way turned on. So now it says this will only show, or show only, on the Milky Way Center and Seeker pages. So maybe your settings are like that, and the Milky Way is only visible when you have one of those 2 pages selected. Personally, I love seeing the Milky Way always because I'm a homer for the Milky Way, so I have that setting turned on. So he asked about the VR. About, what, 7 hours ago, Phil, you asked me about the VR, and this right here is the button you need. That one right there, that square. If you have a defined camera position and a defined place you're looking at, this is going to set up nicely. If you don't have a defined subject you're looking at, it'll just pick a direction, I think directly north or something. So just make sure you define your camera position by hitting the plus sign and saying, here's set my camera location. So see this little white, oh, I grabbed my pano again. See that little white dot that is moving around? It stays in the center, and anywhere that is, and then you hit the plus sign, it will put whatever you define, whether it's a camera setting, a camera position or a scene position. So let me make my pano again to basically be 180. And underneath, once you've set your camera position versus your subject, you go into that square, and the square gives you multiple options like street view, viewfinder picture, viewfinder AR. I pretty much 90% of the time, 99.8% of the time, I'm in viewfinder VR. I shouldn't even say that. It's nearly 100%. I mean, 99.99999 that I'm in viewfinder VR. The only difference I'll make is whether I'm in single mode or panorama mode. I'm in panorama mode right now, and I hit the VR for viewfinder VR button, and boom, there it is. The position of Shiprock. Now, Shiprock is unique. Shiprock, you might have noticed it, but there is a blue square. Now, I saw a comment from Chris Whiting. Oh, man, just jumping after mowing the lawn. Hey, Chris. Welcome in, man. And David's here, too. Hey, Aaron and chat. How's everyone doing? You guys are so great. It's so amazing that even on a Saturday afternoon, I can pop up on a live that wasn't scheduled, that you guys will still come and hang out with me. I love you guys. All right, so this is a feature that you can add into Planit. It's a paid extra feature. Up here at the menu, the hamburger menu, you hit that. You can see at the very top what you've activated. I have activated the Pro feature. I've activated the 3D model feature. And so I don't think I got the Location Explorer feature. It looks like I need to subscribe to that still. But I have activated the 3D model feature, which then makes things like this little blue square. Let me center this again and zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. Right here, where Shiprock is, and I happen to put my pin right on it, is a blue square representing a 3D model that is representing and showing off the look of Shiprock. And this is cool. I love it. It's in the right position. It was submitted by Wenjay, and other people can submit them. And then he'll put them in the app if they are good. Well, here's the problem about this location. I have the topography showing up in VR plus shiprock, and usually that's not a big deal, but in this case it's a little distracting. So if I wanted to turn that and change it, I can sometimes hit the 3D button and it smooths out the resolution and it's a little bit less distracting. In this case, it didn't cut off any of what's happening there. And if I remember this button here where it lets me view where I'm looking at, if I change my position to be, say, this side, looking south at Shiprock, you can't see the 3D. It's like completely engulfed. Oh, now it loaded. It was just popping up a little bit. But this is a good example of something that maybe you're not aware of, and I want to zoom in. I'm going to kill my mouse size real quick so that I don't have a distraction for me to make it possible to actually click on this. Because I really want to show you this zoom real quick. You got to see this. So if I'm going to turn on my zoom, where are you? We're way down here. Okay, zoom display is active. Cancel. And I want to resize you. Oh yeah, I see that's why it's like that, because it's on this view. I'm going to go and put it here. That's why I wasn't seeing anything. Cool, cool, cool. This is what I've got so far so that you know what I'm doing in the background. Basically, I have the ability to have this other view of my desktop, and then I have to resize it to make sure that it's zooming in where I want. And with that, it's an annoyingly belabored process that isn't very fun when you're hanging out with me and you're like, oh, hurry up, Aaron. I'm bored. And I understand. Okay, you're still not changing very easily. Okay, there you go. There you go. Oh, I hate this. It lets me select things that I can't see that aren't locked. And if I miss my little bounding box just slightly, it'll grab that other thing and really make life challenging. So the first thing I always have to do is I have to resize it so that I can see everything. And then I crop in on what I want to show off, and then I resize it again. And today, I went the slowest I've ever gone for it. Basically, I'm zooming in on just the topography, so you can see the gray bounding, the gray shapes that represent the topography here, so I can point something out. All right, now I'm going to make this larger so you can see it large. Please click on it correctly, Aaron. You're already wasting enough time. Okay, I have finally done it. I'm going to move my iPhone over here, and I'm going to turn off. What? I didn't move my iPhone. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué no? Let me turn off the live chat and transition. My iPhone is dead center, and I guess that is just not an option I have. My just iPhone, please move that. Oh, it's locked. That's why. Hello, come over here. Okay, so here's the zoomed in version. I'm going to make it even bigger. So now you can see this terrain. And when I have my cursor over it, you'll see two cursors, one on the small and one on the big. Let me fix that. Final fix. All right. So here's the thing that you see with the topography from Google API. The topography shows a representation of the terrain. You get the high point, and then you get down here and just like interpolations between the two represented elevations. So if the elevation's at 30 feet and at 100 feet, it'll give you like a smooth interpolation line between 100 feet and 30 feet, even if it actually is very dramatic. Typically, the lines have a resolution where they show like a gap in topography, where it's a narrow gap if it's steep, it's a nice spread out gap if it's gradual. But it just, for some reason, this topography in Google API in this situation, without paying for a higher resolution key and access by Wenjie, you get this. It just ends up looking like this is what Shiprock looks like. But the reality of what Shiprock looks like is far more dramatic, far more steep. And so what is the top is really close to where it's represented here on Google Earth, but it's not quite. And then what is off of that is just shown as coming down way sooner than what it actually is. So the 3D modeling really helps, and especially with man-made subjects like the Space Needle in Seattle, the Statue of Liberty. I've shown those off many times. They're fantastic on here, and it's really great on a city plane because the city's nice and flat. The topography is flat where the base of the structures are, and there's nothing overlapping it like here where we have a version of topography showing the shiprock plus an actual shape of shiprock. You would have to flatten out your topography, which I believe is an easy setting, but to be honest, I haven't tried to do it. So let's go into my settings, and let's do my settings for the map. And can I turn off topography? None of those seem to be it. Elevation. Oh, this is how to offline and handle it, yada yada. General, no. Viewfinder mode. There's a lot of different things that pop up in the viewfinder, but it doesn't have a thing for turning off the topography lines. It's just not something that you'd expect. If it's somewhere it's more buried and I haven't done it before, so I won't go and look for it. So that was pretty much how many 3D landscape models are in the app. You know what? I actually can see a list of them. Can't I? I swear I've seen that before. If I were to click on the plus, all my markers, here's a list. These are all my tasks though. Those are a list of tasks. Basically, when you zoom out and you look at a whole area, it will show you the 3D markers. But it looks like it needs to load. Like say I go into Seattle and zoom in on the city of Seattle. When I get to a certain point, it's going to start looking for those 3D models. In this case, it doesn't seem to be. What if I put my camera location here now? Will you start to find it? I'm going to change from pano to a regular. And, oh man, there's so many more. Like the Space Needle's included. Do I really have to zoom in at a... Okay, it was a tighter zoom level. But just to look at this one section where here's the Space Needle up top here, and then here's the other cities that are included, that is a few dozen just in Seattle alone. So I would say there's hundreds and hundreds. But of 3D landscapes, I know of Shiprock. Factory Butte is not included. And I'm still staying zoomed in because then you get a better view of it, even though it's a little confusing. As you can see, 2 windows, but bear with me. When you're in Moab and you go to Delicate Arch up in Arches, you got one there. So you can see how these different arches. What if I go to Double Arch and zoom in? Nothing. Oh, wait, there's some. Turret Arch has one. So let's go see how the Turret Arch looks. It even has the North Window Arch. So what if I went here, placed my camera position to be here? I'm going to turn off my zoom display so that's not distracting anymore. And so that'll be a little bit easier to see. Oh, and you know what? I should move my camera. I mean my phone. Put that dead center. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to add my camera location right here. Did it not work? Set the camera location. And I'm going to make this structure my scene location. And then I'm going to go for viewfinder VR. Now it's going to load. And I have a 75mm lens currently, so that's kind of crazy. Let's do this as a little bit more wide. Let's do 14mm, really wide. And now my view, because it has 3D modeling, oof, this is quite distracting. Am I looking through? Is it just the whole terrain? What is this I'm looking at? I'm going as wide as I can, 0mm, and that is a mess. I think I see the arch. Oh man, this is more cluttered than I've ever seen. So this 3D model, let me get my camera off of that. This model is complex, which will take a long time to show the outlines on the map. If you don't mind waiting, tap the show button. Okay, so it's going to show me the outline on the map, but I'm zoomed in as far as I can, and oh, here we go. Yep, I wasn't zoomed as far as I could. I felt like I shouldn't have been. I think it's just taking time to load. Like it said, it would take a long time to load, and if I didn't mind, it'll show up. But with those 3D geometry points, it'll show up and overlay them as you're looking down, and you can see some triangles already. Apparently, someone has added what is essentially the entire terrain of the Windows area, which is why everything I looked at had those triangles. Oh my gads, this is just too much. Yeah, that one's pretty brutal. What about just turret arch? Just turret. You're not going to show the other turret arch? Oh, I see. Turret arch was further down. Right here. Tap on that. Okay, now this one's far easier to load. And it gives you a down perspective on it, but it's really hard to see because of the way that it's showing. But if I put my camera, say, let's move my camera to right here, and then make my subject point this direction, scene location, and then say go into VR. Turret arch is represented nicely. I might have been just a little close to it. Let me back up. There we go. That looks like turret arch. So this is turret arch, where you got the gap right there, and usually from the window arch you're looking through it and you can see turret arch, and it's a great sunrise. In fact, I have an example of that right here that I will move over on my IMAX screen and show it off. So I just recently used it as an example picture of this area. I'm getting some comments. Let me respond to them. Chris Whiting says, I've been using Planit for years, but haven't considered getting the model functions. I'm not that interested in buildings. If you're not going to do buildings, you might not need it. Landscape, only a few show up. And so really with landscape, you just kind of handle them with your own custom created landmarks. And I can show you what I mean about that. Need to watch a basic tutorial before venturing into this. I'm sure that for those of you who haven't gone into the basics of Planit, that this is so fire hose to your face and you're just trying to swallow. So I understand that is just a massive amount of data and information. Let's go back over to my iPhone only, and you can see, just in simple terms, Vic, it's like photo pills where you tell your camera where you want to place it and you have the map to show you what you're looking at. And something like, say, Delicate Arch might have an extra feature where you can see the shape of Delicate Arch and plan. However, it is in the wrong position, I should say. So for instance, this is my map. I'm going to change this from a topography map to a Google satellite map so that you can appreciate what I'm looking at. Here's the terrain. Here's where people are hanging out. And I'm going to put my camera way over here. So once I have the circle next to this, I'm going to put my camera next to this rock on the right. Hit the plus sign, set the camera location. Then I want to look at the arch, so I'm going to go over here to where the arch is, and I am going to say, cool, the arch right there, set scene location. Now I'm looking that direction with the 14mm lens. It shows me this green wedge shape to show off. That is my focal area. My focal length at 14mm is showing me all of this in my field of view. If I go down to the underneath the plus sign where I set my positions for camera and scene, I go to this square that says, hey, I want to look at this from my viewfinder VR. And now it's going to pull up viewfinder VR. But weirdly enough, they have put Delicate Arch at the wrong rotation. So it's, you should be looking through the whole of the arch from this position, but you are not. It's unfortunately not there. So do I have that? Oh, I do have this turret arch picture I was talking about. So let me transition and show that. So this is the turret arch view from the window. So you're hanging out in the window and you can see turret arch out there and plan around it. So for instance, I did not like the position of that other 3D map. That was just crazy. It wasn't very helpful. Oh, did I just go crazy too far? Oh, I'm in Shiprock. That's right. You're not seeing that, but I'm over on the phone and I'm near Shiprock. So if I go and place myself, oh, I'm in photo pills, that's why. Let's go back down to that window arch. Lower delicate arch view, it's further down. Don't go into Moab. But here we are. Now, if I tell this one, this intense one, I just wanted to not show. Let me hover over it. I want info and I want to hide. Can I hide this marker in the viewfinder? So now I've chosen to hide this marker in the viewfinder so I won't get all that extra geometry. I just want to put myself behind this window where I typically stand on this rock. Say, here's where I want to stand. Set my camera location. I want to look through this arch and look at turret arch. Camera, oh, whoops. I wanted that to be my scene location, and I wanted this to be my camera location. And then I go into the viewfinder again at that bottom button on the right, and then tap on viewfinder VR. And now I'm going to see, oh, my focal length changed to a very tight lens. Let's do 14 millimeter. So that's how far away that little turret arch will look with a 14 millimeter. So it's like, let's do a 50. Now this 50 right here looks a lot like what's happening on my IMAX screen. Look at that. That view of turret arch, the size of it, looks almost identical to what's happening in this picture on my viewfinder. But I'm just not getting that shape of the arch as the outline. So it's like, wow, it's not giving me the outline idea that I want, but I can at least picture something out there. And that is roughly the shape. You can see how my position where I was on the rock had the horizon. Let me show you the screen again. You can see my horizons cutting through the hole in turret arch. And I need to go into my phone and match that up a little bit better. As you can see that is not the case. If I turn on my zoom, oh, that's weird. My zoom display is now just showing the picture of turret arch. Oh, of course it is, because I have to do this. I forgot. I have to do this. So you can see that there is just a little gap right there, and it should be more. So remember this button down below here. It'll shrink this window and allow me to move my camera. So maybe I need to come down a little bit here. I'll let go, let it refresh. Okay. And usually I'm not down this low, but let's just find out how that changes. That is offering a larger gap, more like what I saw in my other picture. Oh, you know what? You're actually not benefiting from it when it's zoomed in like that. So here's better. So you can see that larger gap that's happened. So if you want to plan things to the precision like that, it's really nice to have the 3D models, Chris. Vic is saying, that's starting to make sense, and I see the benefit of having this. Okay, awesome. And Phil says, thanks for the tutorial, got to run. You bet, Phil. Thanks for hanging out for a little bit. It's been an hour, so thanks for hanging out for a long hour. Planit has a learning curve, but it's worth it, Chris Whiting says. Absolutely. Brad Spees says, the 3D models are great when planning moonshots around a city. Oh, yeah. And this one particularly, I was going to actually show that off, that like, I'm going to turn off my zoom because I think it's a little distracting in this situation. And so I want to see the moon. If I click on this viewfinder icon, I'm going to make sure that the moon shows up in this shot. So here's the sun and moon path. All right, cool. I'm going to show the sun and moon path and hit done. Ooh, nice. I already see that the moon, the blue line, shows the moon's path in here. I'm like, ooh, that gives me some hope. So then I need to try something, and it's called the Sun and Moon Finder, and it is this last orange. So in the Sun and Moon Finder, it uses the viewfinder mode to plan something. Right now you can't tell except that you have this long green line. I'm going to go ahead and show that line in this space. I'm going to make sure I change this any to be seen. And when I hit any up there and then hit the word seen down here, can you even see my cursor? Maybe you can't. Let me click. See, now you see my cursor. When I hit seen right there, it kind of default set the viewfinder that I'm trying to find. So what I want is this. I'm going to set up this square to overlap turret arch anywhere really close in the relationship to turret arch. Above here, anywhere inside this square, I want to know when is the moon ever inside this square. So I've defined my location. My space is inside this green square. I've defined it to be here, and since I have the 3D model of this turret arch, I can really know that that's how far I want it to be. I don't have to guess how high up on the horizon to go. I also need to define this as to what I'm looking for. Do I want a sunrise, sunset, moonrise, moonset, full moon? Let's do full moon. Let's go see a cool full moon. And now between August 21st and August 20th of 2025, so 1 year from now, it says there's 9 results when that happens. I mean, even just November 29th, it shows that it's in here. So let's check on the results. So here are the results: May, June, July, August. And it's all these full moons don't happen in this year anymore. They're going to happen in 2025. So let's go ahead and hit that first one. But what if it's like, you know what? I only want to go on the weekend. So just Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Those filters applied. There are only 2 options, July 11th or August 8th. Let's go on July 11th. So now it shows me July 11th, but man, that's right before sunrise, which on a full moon right before sunrise is gorgeous, but it's not quite blue hour. It's going to be a little bright. For instance, if I click on these arrows to tell me what's going on, I go to the last event. Morning blue hour started at 5:19 and goes until when? Let me click on the next one, sunrise. So morning blue hour, sunrise is at 6:03, and the morning blue hour is at 5:19. So like, where is my moon? My moon's up here at 5:19 in blue hour. So I could make a blue hour full moon work, but from my current position, it's outside of this window, but I have something to work with. How would I make turret arch sized right to be in relationship with the moon during morning blue hour? I'm going to let that sit and see if any of you have the intuition or already know the answer as to how would I go from here in the position I'm standing to a better position that makes the moon have a closer relationship with turret arch. And Vic, that's the last thing I said there. Read those things. If I missed any other comments while I'm waiting for that. Oh, Keith said his dinner bell rang. LOL. I'm going out tonight for Milky Way over historic home. So just 15 minutes from house. Cool. I missed that Keith was saying that. He's probably long since left, but I'm glad that he was here. And I should end this soon. While I'm waiting for that answer, let me go ahead and switch over to this screen and go into one last time mentioning those of you hanging out and watching. I have an early bird sale going on. Since most of you, I have about 15 of you hanging out with me now live, but most of you are going to see this replay. And I'm going to be hopping on a plane heading to New Zealand to do the New Zealand Trailblazer Adventure. I'm leaving today on Saturday, and with the time and date change as I go over the international date line, I'll be landing technically Monday, even though it's only going to be less than a day of travel. So I just basically lose Sunday. Sunday doesn't exist to me anymore. I will be leaving Saturday and arriving Monday, and Sunday will be a few of those hours as I want to, just to call it as I'm in the air. It's going to be weird, but I'll be passing through Fiji and then going to New Zealand. And so I've never been to Fiji. It's just the airport. And I've never been to New Zealand, so I'm excited. Can't wait. So anyway, I'll keep this on through the remainder of the night, okay? So that this is just active, and if anyone wants to come in here and take advantage of a 4-night workshop for only $8.99. So instead of the full price $1,800, this is the last time you get 50% off. Black Friday deal will not be 50% off, but I will do a Black Friday deal, but it won't be this low. So if you want to jump in now for only $8.99, here's your chance, and you can choose any one of these 9 4-night workshops to jump in. So let's see if I have any messages that have the answer of what it is to do to get that to show up. And go to my phone now. All right. So looking at the chats, I got one saying, get closer to the arch. Vic saying a wider angle lens. And those 2 options, the answer is correct on one of them. if you were from this position to choose, say, a wider angle lens. For instance, up here, I'm set for 50. So let's change it to a wider angle lens and see what happens. Let's do 24. So now, at a wider angle lens, the position of the moon is here, and here is my arch. So I didn't necessarily change the relationship of the moon and the arch from that. I ended up just, let's get my zoom in there. Can I make this work fast? I bet you could. Don't be a fool, Aaron. You can make this work. And make it bigger. Okay, cool. Now you can see the moon. So here is in the zoom. You can see the moon's here and the arch. Changing this 24 millimeter from 50 millimeter, going wider, it didn't make it closer to the arch. It just made my view of it wider and in reality just smaller. Like the moon is way up. Instead of down here, it's way up high. So how would I make this? The other option that was given was go closer to the arch. Exactly right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to minimize this so I can see where it is. And as I move myself closer, you're going to see the change. I have to let go for it to re-update and then turret arch. So the moon is there. Let's go even closer. Now turret arch is nice and big in my frame. Ooh, I'm changing that square. I just want to angle down. But where is the moon? The moon should be in there. Oh, it's just right there. Perfect. It's right there. So having gone to this position that I've moved to, I have made it nice and visible. In fact, I'm going to grab my Just iPhone. That's just a term that is used on my behind the scenes. And I'm going to go to my zoom and I just want to make it show up better so you can see the whole thing. I'm going to make this bigger and make this bigger. Not that big. Oh, I hate when that happens. I just have something that's not responsive and making that size. So I'm about to show you what I've done. I just need a second. So bear with me before we end this. I hope some of you are coming with me. I hope that that's interests you to go in and get in on the early bird sale. This is the encore of it. I did it earlier this week and had a few sign-ups, but not as many as I thought, actually. I thought there'd be a lot more. But here we go. It's visible. So this is the space. I have over here on my phone, I have chosen this last orange, which is the sun and moon finder. I've told it to be full moon, and I made sure it's between now and next year. And the next time the full moon was visible within my space was here, but this rectangle has moved. It was originally just everything around turret arch, and that moon being full was right there, and I wanted it during the blue hour. So during the blue hour where I can see the terrain really well, but it's dark enough to make the moon nice and bright and vivid, it's a good time to get a good moon shot right here of turret arch plus the moon. The moon in the window even, yeah, let's not mess around without getting that as well. So let's make this square just the size of the window, but from this exact position. Let's say that I just love the shape of this arch the way I'm in here at 50 millimeter. I like the composition, and I don't want to change anything else about it. Just want the moon to be in that window. Let's see if it's possible. At the moment you resize the window, it starts doing a new search. You don't have to hit a commit to search again. So it's already looking for a result, and it says there is a result between now and then on Friday and Sunday. So July 11th on Saturday, the moon is where? It must be inside it, but behind that. It's got to be just behind this rock structure, so I can't see it precisely. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change my focal length to be nice and tight on that. Oh yeah, I see the moon now. It was just behind it there. It was technically inside my shape, but I need to reshape this green box to really be where it's visible, knowing that when I get there, this moon currently probably would have worked. I just had to take a few steps forward, and now it's inside my window. But let's just research that. It says no results. Let's change it to not have any specific days. The first time it would be is May 13th on a Tuesday, 2025, and there's the moon, just barely. So let's think, okay, I want to try and make that moon show up a little bit over to the left. And I move my cursor. It's like, that's too far. So let's go ahead and get over here. Because I'm zoomed in with 105 millimeter, it's a lot more touchy. So I'm thinking, oh, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So now look at this. Now I've got the moon in the center, almost perfect. I'm going to kill this window and go back to Milky Way. I don't want that green stuff in the way, but here's the moon, almost dead center, knowing that a step to the right will make it even more dead center when I'm in person. But I know I go back on May 13th, 2025 at 5:38 a.m. I can get a blue hour giant moon right in the hole of Turret Arch. Kaboom, top right corner. That's what Dave was on top of that. He saw that's where it was. Cool. Dave, I wish you were coming with us to New Zealand, man. I'm sorry you had to change, but we'll get that taken care of. I don't have a current schedule to go there next year, but for you and I, we got to do something. So that might be what we do, is we just add it in to one of my open areas, open windows. But Dave was almost going to be joining us in New Zealand. What a bummer. What a bummer. So that is using Planit, and I started off talking about the Milky Way compositions and how you manage that to get a angle. So specifically the perfect angle. I'm going to go back to this IMAX screen. The perfect angle. You've got these ranges as shallow as 20, as high as 55, but the best is 30 to 45. So if you want to go for just like a 40-degree angle, you can specify that in the app and have it show up by just going in, making sure you choose that third window here, and then that third window, which is the third purple in, and make sure you change Milky Way compositions to be a winter Milky Way arch at 40. But if you wanted to, you can always do the summer one. But this shows the results between this year. I'm going to go to the top result and say no moon. Good, that's already chosen. Top result, November 29th. And let's bring this focal length back to one usable for this. 14 millimeter, and if I wanted to, I can even get a panorama over this. Let's change my viewfinder mode from single image to pano mode, and now I can see what's possible. That moon and sun path is distracting, so I'm going to go to my settings up here and turn off the sun and moon path. Turn that off, hit done at the top right, and now I need to make sure it's looking towards the pano, and I can see, all right, turret arch for my current position would be on the far left, Orion off to the right, and here's a panorama going over it at a 40-degree marker, which is a fantastic 40-degree mark to be. So maybe we'll be there too as well. So Vic, you're thinking of going to New Zealand if we went to New Zealand next year? Because I mean to make a makeup situation for Dave. So you want to join us? Let me talk to Dave and see if he really can do it next year and see what he wants to do. And Vic, you want to join us? It'd be awesome. You'd be one of 6. I say one of 5 because the other one's Dave. So all right, this is what you do to quickly see the good proper time and when would be next. So don't forget about this Milky Way composition list choice of what kind of Milky Way composition you're looking for. A regular Milky Way arch panorama from 20 to 50, or a winter one on here, a winter Milky Way arch 20 to 50, and you can choose any of these and then go through that. And if you really love the idea of this exact position, but you want to do it at a, I don't want 5:29 a.m. I want to be in the more middle of the night. Remember to tap on this on the right side or the left side. It'll change your settings, and you can go from different zoom levels on this timeline. And I'm going to zoom back out to a full day, and I'm going to change this to when would this exact view, something else is maintaining. It's keeping the 5:29 because of something else. I got to remember exactly what it is I did to keep that. So I need to have my time here decided on 40 degrees. So I'm going to go back on the green arrow once. Okay, winter Milky Way arch at 40 degrees. Now that I've defined that, it will not change my position up here. It'll just change what it looks like or what the minute is that's best. So right now it says 5:09, but if I change that, this view won't change, but the time down here will, because I've said, hey, Planet, I want to look for winter Milky Way arch, and I need you to stay on this exact look, but I want to find out one that's going to be earlier in the morning. So on November 29th, it was close to the morning sunrise, and I needed more gap. And so realistically, middle December is when I want to go, and I can just keep seeing what happens if I keep going forward all the way into January. What if I don't want to do it over Christmas break? I want to do it over February, or I'm going to be in Utah in January for that workshop. That's the January winter workshop. So January 25th, it would require 1:45 a.m. in the morning to go out on January 25th. So that is how you can take into all these different considerations. So say you were joining me on this winter Southern Utah landscape and astral one between January 27th and 31st, it would be around 2 a.m. that we would go. And this workshop goes throughout Southern Utah and hangs around the Moab area. And so we could actually do it if you're in that one. So take advantage of that deal if you'd like. Any other questions before I go? Before I take off, the chat right now, you guys have been fun to been fun because you've been participating. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to go spend the next 30 hours traveling. I'm going to fly out from Salt Lake City to LAX, and I'll be there at midnight flying out to Fiji. So fun, fun, fun. I get to go check in my security stuff. Aaron, is the second winter Milky Way workshop to have both winter and summer? Yes. The first one right here is just January. And while it technically does have the summer core, you bet, John. Thanks for coming in, Jonathan. And safe travels to me. Thanks, Vic. And right here on January 27th, you will see the core, but it's on the horizon very low, so it's not really a panorama time. So the first time to do Southern Utah winter and summer panos is that February 24th through 28th. Brad Spees, great info, thanks. And Brad will be here on this one. He's the guy that jumped in on this one. So February 24th through 28th, Brad and I will be out there, and we'll do it. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. And clear skies is not as easily as we hoped. A few of the areas, at least Monday night, are definitely raining and cloudy. But Tuesday night, it is looking clear in the evening. So looks like we might hang out near Christ Church our first night and then go into our first location, because we might go to the Good Church of the Good Shepherd first and do a Milky Way over that. But we'll see how the weather changes over the next 2 days. Bum, 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 bum. All right. The questions could have come in by now. I bet that they'd be here. I'll give it another 20 seconds, and then I'll call it. Sorry you can't see me yet. I'm still in between couch surfing before I find my new apartment, and I'll be worrying about that like September 10th when I'm done with the workshop that's after this New Zealand one. So I'll be busy until then, and then I'll find a place. Thanks, Chris. Don't be jealous yet. Actually, you should be jealous. It's amazing. And we're doing landscapes. It'll be a lot of fun. It's just hope we get some Milky Way and even some aurora. There's a chance for some aurora. So, going to be awesome. So I'll change the limit on this deal. I'll have it end tonight at Pacific time, midnight. So 1 a.m. Utah time, this encore deal will be over. So $8.99 until then. So if you want to jump in with me and come out to a workshop. We'll do it next year. 4 nights. All right, cool. Looks like no one else is jumping in. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back weeks from now, and let's talk more about that winter Milky Way. See you later.